Failure doesn't kill dreams, but our fear of trying does. If we want to achieve our aspirations, failure will be inevitable. I failed my first driving test. I failed the first date I went on. I failed the first business I started. No successful person got to where they are today by not failing. Thomas Edison reportedly failed 1,000 times when trying to create the light bulb. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper job for lacking imagination. J.K. Rowling received 12 rejection letters for the first Harry Potter book. Therefore, if we let our actions then be guided by fear of failure, we will play it small and we will play it safe. We will wait until the perfect moment. We will spend our time thinking about all the possible what-ifs. We will wait till we have read all the books, read all the tutorials, and our knowledge is complete, so we can execute without making any mistake. But this day will never come, the day where we have all the answers and feel fully ready. Failure is not the problem. Failure is simply an opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. And with this in mind, it becomes clear that the way we interpret failure can then determine the way we move forward. Yet for many of us, failure still carries this heavy stigma, a burden we inherited from childhood and our school experiences, where our mistakes were met with ridicule rather than support. And then this early conditioning shapes our fears. We see the laughters we would get from others when we would fail. We see failure as something permanent, as if a single setback means game over. But the truth is, people don't worry as much about you as you might think, because they have their own problems, they have their own tasks and their own life to worry about. And we can always begin again, although it might not seem that way at first. But one thing is for sure, if we let these negative thoughts guide our actions, if we keep seeing failure as something that needs to be avoided at all costs, we will never get to use failure to our advantage. We will never see failure as a tool that helps us to go from being bad at something to being really great at something. The first time I made a video, it wasn't that good, but I uploaded it anyway. And despite of it getting barely any views, I just refused to give up and call myself a failure. And instead, I analyzed the video and then I thought about how I could be doing it better the next time. And therefore, by reminding ourselves that even the biggest minds on this earth had to go through failure, like a Thomas Edison, that is a stepping stone towards success, we can start retraining how we respond when failure occurs. So, how do we deal with the fear? Everything you want is on the other side of fear. On my first shift as a waiter, I was terrified. Literally. Talking to strangers was like a strength I never had. But there I then was, standing in front of the first customer and asking him for his order. And my body felt at the same time like it would explode. And then after he had ordered the espresso and I was back in the kitchen, I felt safe, I felt released, and at the same time, I started to realize that it wasn't that bad as I thought it would be. And then over the next few shifts, every time I was then interacting with a customer, my fear became less and less. And at some point, I couldn't even imagine anymore how it felt the first time. And my fear was just gone. And now, this type of response we will experience every time we are doing something the first time. The first time we'll always feel like we are faced with this wall that we can never be or will never be able to break. But we can break it if we just make the first step. And then it will become less every time, every step thereafter. I had it when I did my first live webinar, recorded my first video, went on my first date, wrote my first post. At the end, don't let our actions be defined by fear. Let's remind us every time that we are faced with it that it is a temporary state. that will subside if we just push through. Because at the end, the difference between someone that is really great at something and feels like a natural often had to go through the same feelings, the feeling of this resistance, the feeling of fear, the feeling of discomfort. But it didn't stop them. It helped them grow. And then on the other side of these feelings, we will feel a satisfaction because we moved closer to becoming the person who we want to be. And the more you learn to embrace this fear, the less we will have it. Like any other skill, it will get easier. So, what do you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? Let me know in the comments, like and subscribe, and remember, keep growing, keep striving. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.